Hello and welcome. I'm on my lunch break from work, but I'm still excited to be able to talk about Dawnshard. I don't have a physical book for this one, so I have my phone because I read it on Kindle. This is a short story in the Stormlight Archive series, which I've been reading through. It's the last short story before Rhythm of War, which I'm very excited to dig. But finish Dawnshard beforehand because it's required reading. And so Dawnshard, relatively short, 208 pages, I believe. Uh, Finished it in a day. It was a very fun read. Um, I love sailing stories, and so Dawnshard automatically grabbed a hold of me. I also love the idea of short stories in this world, in the world of Roshar. I think that what Sanderson has done with the world building really sells the short story angle. I don't want that to obviously not replace what we have with the main set of books because I think that's really good too. But I do think that the short story angle is a really interesting one to pursue. I hope Henderson does make some more. I know that we're almost through with Wave 1, Section 1, Part 1 of Stormlight, and we're going to be going into the next saga of it soon. But I would love to see maybe a short story from the Pure Lake. You knew I was going to say that, but also maybe like the Makabaki region or something like that. There are a lot of characters that could get just a little bit of spotlighting in the way that Rison did in this one that I think would be really cool. Another great thing about this is that it doesn't just take a side character like Rison that got just a little bit of involvement in other things. It also includes more important characters that can be excused and is canon. It's critical to be able to understand where some things come from, I'm guessing, because you don't just want people to show up and suddenly have new abilities they didn't have before. But I don't want to spoil too much in this first non-spoiler section. I just want to say that this is a book I absolutely think you should pick up. Honestly, I don't know that you would understand everything about Dawnshard if you hadn't read Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, and Oathbringer, but I do think it's a really fun read. So if you don't want to read all of those, you can read this one, but just know that you will not understand a bunch of things that are brought up. I do think you should read the other ones first, but if you're just looking for a short story to ease you in, this can work. I think it would probably work better than Edge Dancer for that, but I still don't think I would recommend you start here. I would say start with Way of Kings. It's worth it. But this is a really great zoom in on a thing happening in this world. From here on out in this review, because there's no way I can talk about this any further without it, from here on out in this review, there will be spoilers. If you have not yet read Dawnshard, it's super cheap on Kindle. You can read it in a day, 208 pages. That's not bad at all. Give it a go. But please do that before you continue this video. If you don't care about spoilers, I'm about to just blow the whole thing open. So I think the idea of the Sleepless is incredible. We heard about them in Edge Dancer, and they're super cool. But not only do we get to see more Sleepless in this, we get to meet and spend time with a Sleepless in the form of Nickley. And Nickley is super cool as a character. Such a cool idea. I love Nickley. You also have his interactions with Rison and the way that all of that turns out at the end with the deal. I'll get on to Rison in a minute because I really, really got to talk about Rison. Nickley, great character, great character. I think that Cord is a pretty good character. I don't feel like she got as much to do as some of the others, except for like right at the end. But I do think she's pretty interesting. I like meeting more of not just Rock's people, but also Rock's family. And the way that she talks about Rock tells me that there's a whole lot more that we haven't touched on. I mean, we knew there was a little bit based on the way that he was able to fire that shot that took out Amaram. But I think that there's a lot more to his character that we're going to learn, and I think Cord could be a good way to learn more of it. Um, Other than that, I thought she was great. Just didn't get to do as much until right at the end. But I will say her putting on that moment where she puts on the plate and she's just like, I challenge you to Mortal Kombat. And Nickley's like, all right. And she's like, ha, you can't kill me because if you kill me, you're breaking the promises from the ancient gods. And Nickley's just like, what? And she goes, oh, you don't know about those. Okay. It's just this really great moment where her plan was so good and it just unfortunately means nothing. I think that the stuff with the captain Rollin is really good. Um, that's a great character. She's great. Her brother Sled, I think is how you would pronounce that, is also great. Uh, I think their interactions with Risen are really solid, and the way that they slowly open up to her more and more as the journey goes. The moment where Dralawan, I got to make sure I have the L and the R right. The moment where Dralawan is just like, yeah, no, this, I'm not going to say it outright, but yeah, this should have been my ship. That's a really powerful moment. That's a really solid moment for her as a character, and it helps Risen move forward too. Speaking of moving forward, we got to talk about two of the greatest characters in this book. We got to talk about the Lopin, the one and only, and his cousin Huio. And Huio is a character that I think has just kind of been played for jokes in some ways, has just kind of been there alongside Lopin to kind of augment the Lopin has a lot of cousins joke. And Dawnshard changes that. Dawnshard makes Huio not just a character, but a really interesting one. A tinkerer that likes to take things apart, that's actually really smart, but just cannot wrap his head around Alethi, and it really bothers him. You can tell there's a lot he wants to say, but he doesn't know how to say it. So he has this reputation of being stoic, when he's really not. He just doesn't understand how to put things into words. I like Huio a lot. And the big moment for me, because Lopin's always great. Lopin is one of the best characters in the series. Lopin, probably one of the best characters in all of media, to be honest with you. I adore Lopin. This book made me love him even more, because one of the big moments is the moment when Huio swears the third ideal, which is to protect even those that you hate, and he swears it looking at Lopin. And it lets Lopin realize that, you know, his jokester personality, he's fun, he's always joking with people, but sometimes those jokes hurt. And it leads Lopin to the moment where he has to say, hey, I'll protect people even from me. And then he gets the third ideal. And it's a funny moment because Lopin's mad at the Stormfather because it couldn't be a big climactic moment, but it's also a really powerful moment of character building for Lopin and for Huio, because Huio trusted Lopin with the knowledge that, yeah, sometimes the things you say hurt, even though he knew it would hurt his cousin because he felt it would help him grow. And then Lopin takes that trust and goes, okay, now that I know that, I'm going to be better. And it's just, it's a little tiny character arc in the grand scheme of things that I love. It is great. That is one of my favorite moments in the entire series. Then we have Risen. Risen is an incredible character, first off. Coming to terms with the inability to walk suddenly and growing from that, having to constantly stifle the way that it makes her feel. And the conversation she has with Lopin is incredible, where Lopin's just like, yeah, and they don't want to ask about it, but then if you get defensive about it, they get mad. Yeah, it's a really powerful moment, really powerful character throughout the course of this book. And I love that by the end of it, she doesn't get her legs back. Like, Hopper got his back, and Lopin got his arm back, but it's not always that simple, right? And so Risen doesn't just get better, but she betters herself despite it, without it being a problem. I mean, it's still an obstacle, but it's not a problem. It's something she can tackle. She is able to grow and eventually able to become the captain, or not captain, but the reps of the ship of her own right, because she worked for it, whether she could walk or not. And it's really powerful. I love the little moments with her where she's talking to somebody and they realize, like, Nickley is a great example of that. He realizes what it makes her feel like, and it just helps, you know, their later conversation even better. I love those little moments, because I think something that a lot of times people forget: it doesn't matter what your disability is. If it holds you back, it holds you back. And it doesn't matter how much we're able to, I say we, with my lungs, it doesn't matter how much we're able to act like it doesn't bother us. It's still a challenge we have to face every day. And the fact that, and obviously mine's very different, right? But it still makes us feel worse or not as good or inferior. And Risen makes that comment multiple times of, she feels like she's a child sitting among adults because she's having to sit down while these adults are standing up around her talking. And the moment when she gets her chair able to hover, she can propel herself and she can be eye to eye with people again. It broke me. That was an incredible moment. This is a incredible book. Definitely worth reading. Like I said early on, I think the Sleepless are really cool. I think everything to do with them is really great. I'd love to know more about the Dawnshard command. I'm sure we'll get more of that to come. Cheery Cheery's really cool. I'm curious about maybe some more info about the Lux Spren, the Mandras. Um, there's there's a lot of stuff that gets set up here that I think is going to pay off in a really powerful way. But I am excited to see more, uh, especially in Rhythm of War, which I'm going to start. Um, Let me know your thoughts on Dawnshard. This is a short little video, just a off the cuff review of Dawnshard. Um, but I really like it, and it might. It's tough to say because it's so much shorter than the others, right? But it might be my favorite book in the series, even though it doesn't have as many big moments. The moments that it has are really powerful to me. And I'll admit some of that could be my own experience with not being able to do things that other kids were able to do. But it, I think the lesson with Risen of no matter what, you can still rise above is really strong. And I think more people should read that. So let me know your thoughts on Dawnshard in the comment section down below. I'm going to start reading Rhythm of War, and we're going to get through that, and then I'll do a review for that. And then we'll probably move on to Malazan for a little while, and some other book series that I have been told are really good. And then we'll come back to some more of Sanderson works and try to work out the rest of the Cosmere while we're at it. But until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum. Dawnshard has to offer.